Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and we have the lovely Just Mel Hobbs here as the co-host today.
Hello.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Always.
Hey, we want to say thank you to our platinum sponsor, Matter Behavioral Health out of Mount Pleasant, Utah. Guys, if you are looking for a different type of recovery center, please reach out to them because they seriously work from the inside out, which I think a lot of other recovery centers are finally starting to grasp and they're getting a hold of. But guys, if you guys are looking for somebody different, call our friends over at Matter Behavioral Health at 435-462-2781. Hey, we got a special guest for you today. A guy that I've known probably for at least the last 9 to 10 years when I got involved at the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce, Mark Feigh. How you doing, Mark?
Good. How are you? Has it actually been that long?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, because, maybe even longer.
Yeah, I was going to say even longer.
I lost my job in 2009, and I think it was shortly about a year after that is when I started getting involved with the Chamber.
And you went head first, too.
And I went head first. I did. I volunteered for everything.
I remember that.
Your golf tournament that you used to put on every year, the Share the Magic. I mean, Rebecca Deering was running kind of the place at the time. Craig Deering was the president. But, I jumped in with both feet.
And we appreciated it.
Oh, well, I enjoyed the heck out of it, man. All the people that I have met at the Chamber and just in networking in general, just some really, really good people. So
I can definitely agree with that as well. That's where we met as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had our first one-on-one here.
That's what she was saying.
Last week,
We're getting to spend a lot of time together over the last week.
Yep.
I like it. Well, one thing that I didn't know about Mark for a long time was he had a family member, which I'll let him talk about, but family member that battled with addiction and some other people in your life that's battled addiction. And I don't even really think, Mark, you even told me till I actually started speaking up about my wife's battle with alcoholism. But before we get into that, why don't you let our listeners know a little bit more about Mark Feigh, who you are and what you do? And
Well, I was born and raised here in good old Salt Lake City. I did spend a full year in Mexico, lived down in Puerto Morelos for about a year and then came back. I could speak Spanish real well then when I was about 8 years old. You don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And I've taken Spanish classes since then, and you got to immerse yourself in there to be able to speak it. So anyway, like I say, I've been in real estate for about the last 24 years, and that's kind of my passion. I get kind of, really torn into it when I can see that how the industry's going and some people that come in that don't treat it well.
Yeah.
And I really get upset, and but I've been doing that for the last 24 years and loving every minute of it. Like I say, I was born and raised here. Grew up in the Cottonwood area, and then found out just the west side was not such a bad place, so I moved out here and been in West Jordan, with the West Jordan Chamber. Been in West Jordan since '86.
Wow.
And
That's the year I was born.
Don't date me here. And I see 86, and I joined the West Jordan Chamber in actually 1999. So that's how long I've been with the Chamber, as long as I've been in real estate.
Wow.
So I've been working with Craig and all that kind of since then. So
yeah, it's when I grew up out in West Jordan, my parents moved out there I was 9, so 71, 72. And just, it was a great place. I mean, the west side was awesome. It was country.
Yeah.
It was country.
It's not
back
that way
then.
anymore.
It was back then.
Yeah.
I've been here 20 years, and even 20 years ago, it was country.
Yeah, pretty
Anything
much.
west of state, down that direction, down south. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, basically, if you were downtown Salt Lake and you told someone that you lived in West Jordan, they're like, you live clear the hell out there.
Though.
Gotta pack a lunch.
Yeah. Pack a lunch, tell your loved ones, see you in 48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark, when you started finding out that my wife was battling addiction, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, I think that's the first time you reached out to me. And and said that you had a son, right, that had dealt with heroin. And we've had other people on the show. We actually have someone here in the studio that's watching the show right now who's had 3 sons that's battled with heroin. I mean, it's a little different from what I've been learning, because mine's my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for someone to say, you know what, I'm wiping my hands, I'm done, see ya. But when it's your child, that love is something that you don't want to break, right? And so I just can't imagine how hard it was. And how did you end up finding out about this?
Well, of course, being the breadwinner and everything, I basically was out working, and it was in my real estate career where, get out, get hustling, get out there and work. And I mean, it took a lot of my days, and I really didn't realize anything until, I'd had some your teenage struggles with your kids, that they don't want to listen to you, and they don't want to do this, and they want to do that. We did kind of have a one of those, you need to do this, or why don't you find your own place to live type scenario. Because he was getting a little abusive, and I really didn't realize that he'd been, on drugs and everything else. And I found out that he'd been smoking pot, and because we had some conversations with him and his friends, and it was okay. Well, you sit down. That's not a good thing to do. This is where it leads, and all of that kind of stuff. You like most people say, marijuana is the gateway to gateway drug. And then you have the arguments. No, it's not. I'll never take anything else. I'm just going to smoke pot. And that's, I'm X amount, and I'm this old, and I've seen what it can do. And of course, I've tried it myself. Mm-hmm. Back in the high school days, and it just didn't do it for me. It made me paranoid and everything else. And so I just, I quit. I wasn't smoking anymore.
Yeah.
And then when I started to notice things missing, that's when it started to really strike home. I'd go to find something. I think the first thing I remember finding is I had an old A2000 glove that I used from growing up, baseball and stuff, and we went to play softball. I couldn't find it. I looked all over and everything else. I said, where does that go? And I didn't think much of it. I thought, well, maybe I left it somewhere or something like that. And then I started noticing things were missing, and I just kind of like, where is this stuff going? And then when I remember going down and opening my gun safe and noticing about half my guns were gone.
Oh my gosh! Now I've been in shock with that.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, something's not right here. Did we get broken into? So I sat him down and says, if your friends come over here, did you? Oh no, they didn't take them. I'm quite sure they didn't take them. And I just kept questioning, and it just started to. And then we had 2 4-wheelers. They were the cheap, knockoff Japan, the cheapies. I think they were like $900 a piece or something like that. And all of a sudden, they were gone. And
you can't just misplace those.
You can't just misplace those. So I'm going all around, and I'm going to pawn shops, and I called the police and everything else. And we found one of them that he had pawned at a pawn shop. And that's when it just started clicking. I sat him down and, that's your son. Yeah, he came in and brought it in. I says, well, why did you even pay him money? Well, he had the title, had his name on it because it was his. Yeah. And we started clicking, and everything started. And I started to go back and look. Jewelry was missing. Silver, my mom's silverware that I had she had from her mother, was missing.
Oh, geez.
And we just started. And I found from other people that I've talked to that that is a common thing. They've when their kids start into heroin and drug addiction, they start to see a lot of valuable items gone,
slowly just disappearing.
Yep. And then I've actually gone back and bought things at the pawn shop twice, because I'll bring them back, think I hide them, he finds them, goes and pawns them again to get money for drugs.
Wow.
So it was a constant battle with that. And finally it was enough. I just said, you need to leave. This is not working. So him and his girlfriend, they found a place and went down to a low-income housing place in West Jordan, found a place to live, and thought things were going well until I started getting the phone calls of, "Ma, we need some money for rent." Not my problem. And it just was like, well, we're gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to do, And the one thing I've learned about addiction is they are master liars.
Master liars and manipulators.
Oh,
That's right.
it is. I have learned so much. My biggest thing was, if you could take that energy that you use to manipulate, lie, and steal, and put it into something good in your life, you'd kill it.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be so successful at anything you put your mind to. But that addiction, it just turns them into a different person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's not them anymore.
No.
At
And
all.
I was told by a counselor, because I get him back into a counselor, and he'd last about 3 or 4 sessions and then gone. I never see him for about a month. Never hear from him, never see him, nothing. Then all of a sudden he'd show up. Of course, I need money. I need some money for Suboxone. I'm trying to kick it. And I says, you can't kick it on your own. You need to get in here. And so we kind of went that back and forth for years, that he was going to do it his own. And then we'd come in, and he'd go in, and we'd find another counselor. And then I'd get a call from the counselor, and I'd say, well, he didn't show up for his appointment this time. After about his third or fourth, and then I'd try to reach him, and nothing. And he was going through cell phones, and he'd get a new cell phone, and then, where he's getting the money, I have no clue. And from what I've learned today, is that, yeah, he did a lot of theft and things of that nature, but I remember that one counselor telling me that he sat me down, and I says, explain this addiction to me. How does it work? And he says, well, you got 3 of your most primal instincts. You got your procreation, primal instinct to have sex, procreate, food, and self-preservation, fight or flight. He says, the addiction pushes those aside. You don't no longer have those 3 primal instincts. Your number one is, when do I get my next fix?
Yeah.
So that's why you see people down there that that want to have, that are panhandling and things of that nature, and somebody goes to beat them up, they don't care if they get beat up. They just give me the money. That's why you see people, money, sex for drugs and things of that nature. They don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's just that one thing. And he basically, there would be times they would come back into our lives. And he basically met a girl while he was out in the streets, and they were using together. And I remember the time we actually got him into one of the counselings together. Her parents came over and basically just ripped him a new one and said, you stay away from my daughter, those type of things and everything else. And they just said, no, sorry, that ain't happening. We're sticking it together. And we had him at our place for probably 3 or 4 different stints, and they bounced around to family members.
Yeah.
Who would take him in, who they could manipulate, con, whatever you want to say. Oh, I'm clean. Okay, well, if you're going to come in here, then you're going to, live by these rules. You're going to test weekly, blah, 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 that type of thing. And 2 weeks into it, dirty as hell.
Yeah.
They come back just, oh, well, I thought you knew. What do you mean? I thought you knew. Our conversation is that you were going to be clean and live under our roof, because at the time we had very impressionable younger children.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, see ya. When you get home, take your clothes and you're gone.
Yeah.
You didn't live by our rules and you didn't do this, so, and then all of a sudden we'd find out, we would try to call them and see where they're at. Crickets. And then come to find out, there was one time where his mother took him in and didn't tell us. And so we're sitting there, just worried sick for the next month. Finally, we found out what happened, and we just kind of shook our head, and it was another manipulation. Oh, well, I'll take him in. They'll be better at our place. And
That's
then they
what
go.
some people think.
Yeah.
until they live in it.
And then when they find out that they've actually got things missing as well.
Yeah.
Every place they went and lived, the complaints came back as, I'm missing my compressor. I'm missing this or I'm missing that. And, my toolbox is gone.
Yeah.
And it was just, they'd go in, they'd get them, and it was always, I need this money for this, or I need that money for that. And it just, and there's times where we look at it and we say, well, shame on us. We should have been harder on it, and just said no. And I remember one of the first times that he got busted, I think it was for shoplifting. And he was in jail. Calls me up just crying, sobbing, everything else, wanted me to bail him out. And so I went down there, and my current wife Gina, we both went out there, and he was on the other side of the glass, and he's just, I can't stay in here, blah 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 blah. And I'm this close to bailing him out, and I just said, nope, you need to learn your lesson.
Good for you. You
Good
stood.
for you.
You stood
Yes.
your boundaries. Kept
Yep.
your boundaries.
Enough was
yeah.
enough.
And 2 days later, they let him out anyway. So go figure.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. And I remember, thinking back on this, there was a portion of time before he did leave that him and I did get in and I look back at it and I know he was very high at the time, but we actually got in a fist fight.
Wow.
My old house, there's actually a nice dent in the wall from his head, and we went the rounds, and he had one of his friends there that was hitting me in the back, telling me to stop it, and I was trying to teach my son a lesson. And the next thing, finally, I remember, how out of shape I was, and I just knew if I let go of him, I would probably pass out on the floor, and and he'd be gone or whatever. But I just remember going, crap, my adrenaline's going, And then after that, we stood up. I walked out of the room. He reached into the desk, grabbed my keys, took my car, and left.
Oh, geez.
And so I called and reported it stolen, and had a good client of mine that was a West Jordan police officer at the time. I called up and said, hey, this is the situation. So they did a quick search. They found where it was at. So I met him over there, and that was one of the hardest decisions I think I remember was, he told me, he says, it's probably a good thing if you have us arrest him.
Yeah.
And charge him. And it basically, I sat there, and it was one of the hardest decisions. Finally, I just, okay, do it. So they arrested him, put him in jail for, auto theft. And then, that stuck with him for a while. And
It's
then
a felony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ended up down the road. We cleaned it up and got it taken care of after quite a few years. But and then after that, shortly after that, when he was out and about, he did his mother and I, about 3 or 4 years later, got a divorce, and she moved out to an apartment complex, and he went and lived with her for a while, and had a friend there that was with him, one of his best friends, and they took her credit card, her debit card, and withdrew all her money at little small increments to go buy drugs. And so finally, when she found out, she pressed charges and kicked him out. And there was about, I think he got away with like $4,000 or something like that. And so she actually went through with it and pressed charges and just said,
She went all the way with it.
She went all the way with it and kicked him out, and so he was on the streets for quite some time, and then we'd be back, and I remember one time I told him, I says, son, I love you to death, but on the other hand, I hate your fucking guts.
Yeah.
Because of what you're doing to me. And he just kind of looked at me and says, how can you do that? I says, you tell me. Because you're ripping my guts out because you're on this. I don't know where you're at. I don't know where you're sleeping. You've told me you've slept in bushes and underneath viaducts and all of these different places.
See, that stuff gives me goosebumps because the times that I had to kick my wife out because she was so drunk. I mean, I would get so angry. And I went through anger management back in my 20s because I had a terrible, terrible temper. And I could start feeling those blinders closing in. And I know it wasn't going to be long before I would end up doing something that was probably going to end my butt in jail. That's how pissed off I was getting. But not knowing where they're at. It's I've shared a few times that when I kicked my wife out, I thought, well, I'm going to kick her out so I can have some calmness here and chill. I never got the calmness and I never chilled. I was usually up all flipping night because then I was worried that somebody was going to grab her. And now after we had like Amber Lee on the show who talked about how these people that go out and look for people like that to have them trafficked for sex, so many flipping times my wife could have fallen right in one of those guys' hands. And she told me some stuff that she even did about sometimes somebody would pick her up, and she says even close to where we're living at now, some guy's like, oh, you want some booze? Well, come over to my place. And so she did. And she went over there and she was sitting on the couch and some other guy showed up and she heard him in the back room talking about, hey, for $50 if you want to have sex with this woman. And she heard it and she says, luckily I wasn't drunk enough to where I could still comprehend. And she says, well, they were still in the room. I heard him left out the front door.
Thank goodness.
And she's like, thank God he was watching over me because that could have happened. But that's what we go through, right? We're so afraid, and especially when you don't know where they're at. I mean, I can't imagine one of my daughters being in that situation and not knowing where she's at, who she's with. I mean, like you said, it tears you up inside. It ends up starting to take over your life, Like I've shared in some of my talks, I was addicted to my wife's addiction, 100%.
Although I've never experienced this with a child, my little sister, we've gone through a lot of the similar experiences that you have. Just, do we turn her in? We did. Yeah. We had to put an end to something. We didn't know what that was, but of course they shipped her states away and let her out. It's like now she's in Florida, doesn't know how to get back to Utah. It's like, but you just have to put them in those situations. They need to learn those lessons because it's everything that comes along with it, with the lying, the stealing, the actual act of the drug. It's too much for even them to comprehend.
Well, I do remember the time it really hit home is the one time I walked into the bathroom and he was passed out on the floor. And I didn't see any like needles or anything else, but he was passed out, and I smacked him around a little bit, and he came to and stuff like that, and he still denied that he was using drugs. Yeah. And I said, "Where are you keeping him?" "I'm not keeping him anywhere." And I tore my house apart. Air vents, toilets.
Oh, believe me, buddy, they come up. I've even asked my wife. I'm like, how do you come up with these hiding places? My wife got so good to where when she realized, I found out she was hiding bottles around the apartment complex. I could walk around the apartment complex and I got to where I knew right where to look and I would find her bottles. She got so creative that I knew she was drinking and I couldn't figure out where the frick she was hiding it. So I was finally able to get to a point to where I could kind of watch her without her knowing. She had figured out that there was a little gap behind her bumper that was open by the radiator, and she was putting her hand up in there, and she was hiding her bottle, a pint.
Oh my goodness. Behind
like the bumper in the radiator part of the vehicle without opening up the hood. And I'm like, who would have ever thought of that? I would have never thought of hiding my drugs or even booze in the back the bumper and somewhere up around where your hand could get by the radiator. I mean, how the hell would she even know that was there?
I never even thought to look at the vehicle.
I know, right?
I looked inside the vehicle, but I never thought of looking underneath or in a bumper or anything like that. Wow, yeah.
It's crazy, like you said. It's you look everywhere. I mean, everywhere. I remember once I lifted up the mattress, kind of like what you see in the movies, you know, and they're looking for money or drugs, and they throw them. There was 4 empty pints under there. I'm like, son of a bitch!
I'm late.
You gotta be kidding me! I mean, yeah, I was sleeping on her booze every night, basically.
Didn't know it,
and didn't even know it. Question for you, Mark. I would say the majority of the people that we've had come on the show, they had some kind of trauma or turmoil, or something happened in their life, or they came from a broken home, or divorced parents, or sexually abused, or physically abused, something at an early age, like 12, 13 years old. And they got into the alcohol and the drugs basically just because the first time they did it, they're like, oh my gosh, what have I been missing? Because it helped push all that shit away that they were battling with. Did your son battle with some kind of thing that you know of, or was it just something he just like had some friends once and it's like, hey, I'm going to give this a shot, and he just fell in love with it so much? And the reason why I'm asking, you know, all of us through high school and stuff like that, I didn't even start smoking pot till like 2 weeks before I graduated, you know, and I'm like, man, this is some pretty good stuff. Well, and then I ended up working construction, and in the construction company, we worked our butts off all week, and on the weekends, all we did was party. Kegs, pot, mushrooms. A couple times people brought acid, which anything that made me not realize if it was real or not, I did not want to touch. Cocaine, you know, hash. All that stuff for someone like myself was like, just kind of like a recreational thing. Yeah, it's fun when we're doing it, but after it's done, I'm not looking at doing it again until maybe a month down the road when we throw another huge ass party, you know. So what was it like for your son? Do you have any clue on that one?
That's a good question. You know, I've racked my brain and tried to think about all of the things that you know, growing up. I know that I was very, you know, career oriented. Probably could have spent some more time at home with, you know, with family and stuff like that. But at the time, I was the one bringing home the bacon and you know, making ends meet. You know, there were some periods of time when he was playing Little League baseball and stuff like that, you know, he wanted to do it, but then all of a sudden, it just, nope, right in the middle of the season. Don't want to do it. And I didn't really realize where it was leading to and stuff like that. But the one thing that we've reconciled, now, since all of this has happened, he's with the girl that he was out. He's actually married now to her. They have a 3.5-year-old daughter living up in Washington, and they are doing fantastic.
Now that is great to hear. That is so awesome.
But it took that rock bottom for him to get to rock bottom, and he actually went to live with her actual mother. Okay, the person that was really always in control of my son's wife was her grandmother, because she was the one with the money and that she was always calling for money and things of that nature. But they went down central Utah and I think they found a place where they could actually get away from all of the lifestyle here in Salt Lake.
Yeah. What drew them in, right?
And who they wronged. And I think the reason what take them, because they were afraid they'd burn so many bridges, you know, borrowed from somebody. I mean, there was a lot of times they told me, yeah, I borrowed $50 from my coworker. Are you ever going to pay him back? Probably not. Yeah. You know, because where are they going to get the money to pay him back?
Yeah, exactly right.
And, you know, so for them to be away from the Salt Lake Valley, I think really helped. And I just think they're not here in Salt Lake, and I think that's one of the main reasons why is because of that. They don't want to come back in and be hooked back into some of the old the old ways.
Yeah.
But getting back to your question is, I'm not sure what it is, but he's been very open with some of the things growing up. And the one thing that he was free to tell me is that when I would set down rules, things to be done, he'd just go to mom, and mom would
enable him.
Yeah, basically enable him. And there was nothing, there was no parenting in a sense, there was more friendship. And you have to be a good parent, you have to set rules and boundaries and stick to them. And both parents have to, agree. And, even if one parent doesn't agree with the other parent, you can't show that weakness to the child.
No, yeah, agreed 100%.
And I found out through that period of him growing up, there was a lot of times that I would say, this is the way it is, and I'd talk to my wife and I'd say,
you weren't validated as a parent in his eyes because of his mother.
And so I'm not sure if that had a lot to do with the way he did, because I don't see there was any. I mean, he had grandparents. He had a good family structure.
Yeah.
But I just don't. That's when you sit back and you just try to go over in your mind and replay it. What could I have done different? What can I do different moving forward?
Oh, hell, you'll play that tape and it'll never wear out if you let it, right?
If you let it.
It'll continue to,
And, but all you can do is just kind of say, okay, if I'm doing something different or with grandkids, this is how I'm going to do it from now on. I'm not going to let that happen or not let this happen. That's about the only thing I can really think of that allowed him to stray off and not really adhere to rules, because there really wasn't any rules, because I'd set him down and they wouldn't be adhered to.
Yeah. He could have ultimately just taken that as, like, personally with you working, he could have just understood it as, my dad is not there. I mean, you could have been there financially supporting and everything like that, but when it comes to the child, like for me, my mom worked 3 jobs because she had to, but she wasn't around a lot because of it. Mm-hmm. We, however, loved when she's gone because we got to play. But ultimately, I mean, you never really understand how people can take things just completely different.
You'll never know.
And it's good you guys brought that up, because I don't remember who the guest was that we had on the show once, but they were saying that kids are actually looking for that, what word am I looking for?
Stability,
that discipline,
structure.
That discipline and the structure from both parents. When they can play both, which kids are known to do that, even if their parents are together, they still understand. But once they learn that they can get away with it, it's not that they really want to get away with it, but they do, but they're still also wanting that, so for you being hard and being, the father and going, nope, this is it, and then him going to his mother and his mother kind of like treating him with velvet gloves.
Don't worry about that, it's okay,
Even though he was really needing that, and he knew he was needing that, he was going to take advantage of it and go that way. Because I remember a time when I came back from Kentucky, and I was married to another gal, and we're living out in Riverton, and I remember I think my daughter was 12 or 13, and she called up and says, "Hey, Dad," I'm like, "What's up?" And she goes, "I want to come and live with you." I says, "Why do you all of a sudden want to come and live with Dad?" She goes, "Mom and I got in this big fight," and blah, blah, blah. And she called her mom a bitch. And even though my ex-wife and I, even when I came back from Kentucky, we were still we're friends now, thank goodness, but we still wasn't to that point. I flip and come uncorked. So don't you ever let me hear you call your mom that word ever again. I was pissed.
Good.
And she didn't know how to take it, and I says, "Look, why don't you give it a couple weeks? And if you still think you want to come live with Dad after a couple weeks," well, she stayed with her mom.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look back at that and I'm like, man, was that a test?
It was. And you would have taught her the wrong lesson had you been like, okay, I'll come get you.
Or I could have said, yeah, your mom is a biatch, and played along with it.
You would have put the mom at a place where you would have unvalidated her just in that act, and her life could have taken a completely different turn.
Yeah.
Because you
take the high road.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But see, again, as parents, how the hell do we know? I mean, did you take a class in high school to learn? How about you, just Mel?
No, I wish.
Seriously,
I've taken parenting classes since, and it's I still don't know what I'm doing.
There's no book to tell us. I mean, well, there's experts out there, but some of the shit I even have heard from experts, I'm like, where the hell did you come up with that shit?
Do you have kids of your own?
Do you have kids of your own? Yeah. That's like me trying to tell an addict, I understand what you're going through. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I don't, because I've never been an addict, but...
That was one thing that my son had constantly would tell me, Dad, you have no clue. You have no idea. And he was just... And finally, I just said, no, I do not. I do not have a clue.
Good for you for saying that, yeah.
Because this just doesn't make sense to me.
But what I see it is, that's how I see it, and that's all I know.
And I do know that they both talk about it, and it's going to be with them, I don't know, haunting them, but it'll be with that urge will be with them for the rest of their life.
Oh, of course. We just had a gentleman on our show a couple weeks ago who 5 years sober and relapsed.
Yeah, relapsed in December.
After 5 years, now he's back on track again. Mm-hmm. But,
even after being the teacher.
And he taught other people.
Mentored others.
Yep.
Still was able to fall back in that cycle.
Yeah. It's a tough situation. Let's take this time right now, take a quick little break, and then come back and we can kind of touch base a little bit more on your son and seeing how good he's doing right now, but I know you've had other addiction in your life other than your son. So, all right, guys, hey, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you or a loved one or someone you know struggle with addiction?
Have you lost hope, or are you struggling to make connections?
Have you been to other treatment programs and have yet to reach your full potential?
We are Matter Behavioral Health. At Matter Behavioral Health, we understand substance abuse treatment works best when the client is taught ways of identifying for themselves their own dysfunctional views of their life that trigger their self-limiting beliefs and leads back to addiction.
We help you get to the core of what's causing your addiction.
We offer inpatient and outpatient services. To find out what's best for you, call us at 435-462-2781. That's 435-462-2781.
Don't wait, give us a call. Your life depends on it. Call us at 435-462-2781.
Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website, at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Action. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. Al Richards here and just Mel Hobbs.
Hey.
Again, thank you for being here.
Of course.
And again, thank you to our platinum sponsor, Matter Behavioral Health out of Mount Pleasant. Guys, give them a call. Tell them that The Other Side of Addiction sent you, because Brad and I, who is the owner of Resilience Talk Network and our producer, we have gotten to know a lot of the people there at Matter Behavioral, and they are all just amazing, amazing people. I feel so blessed that I got to meet these guys and we're able to work together on some things. So again, give them a call at 435-462-2781. We are here with our special guest, Mark Feigh. Mark, man, the first half of it was awesome. Thank you for being vulnerable and opening up. I know it's not easy, especially when you're talking about a child. It's hard for anybody to come on the show and say, hey, this is what's happened in my life. And you mentioned earlier in the show that your son had hit rock bottom. And even when you said that, everybody's rock bottom is different, because we've also had other people say, yeah, I hit my rock bottom and then I found out I had a lower bottom, and then I found out it was another lower bottom. But there are some that finally hit it and kind of do that bounce off and start realizing, man, life has got to change. And you says that they've moved away.
Yeah, they moved down to Central
Seem to be
Utah,
doing really well right now.
and with her parents, and they had it was a small town.
Yeah.
And they basically, tried to kick it. I know that you can get drugs anywhere. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what, small, big, little.
Oh, they're all over.
They're all over.
Yeah.
But it made it a little more difficult, because it wasn't just trafficking through. And then to try to get the money and the means of buying it wasn't there. And so that helped. And, of course, the support that they received down there. And then I think the one thing is they decided to have a child, and that my son is an awesome father. I mean, he comes home and that's his, he works and then he plays with his daughter.
That's so cool.
And both of them are just great parents, and I think that took them to a new level and brought them kind of out of that doldrum.
It gave them a bigger purpose.
Much bigger purpose. I've had a couple other friends talk about the same thing with their kids, to where their kids were, 5, 6, 7 years doing heroin and drugs, and then they got married and had a kid, and it was just like, of course, I don't think that's the way it's happened all the time.
Right, yeah.
It's one of those things where, a couple has a bad marriage, and so let's have another kid. And then that doesn't work. So, having a kid when you're on drugs could be, a disaster for...
Absolutely.
Could be a very, very disastrous choice. And then that kid either is born addicted, or is going to be in a foster care, or
has even other defects.
Yeah.
Because of the addiction during pregnancy. Yeah.
Yep. And then all of a sudden now you've got grandparents, parents taking care of a young one, where granted it isn't usually the parents or grandparents' choice, because they're looking at retirement, they're looking to move on and travel and do all kinds of things, but all of a sudden now there's this little kid, and it's like, hey, we got to do something. They step up, and then all of a sudden now the child, I've just reading stories and talking with other addiction issues and stuff like that can happen. But for my son, it was kind of a godsend.
That's
so
cool.
They're doing great up there, and they they both work, And they've got some good things going for them up there.
Good for them. Mm-hmm. Again, it goes to show that it's possible.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's amazing how many addicts and alcoholics that I've spoken to since I've gotten into this, not line of work, since I got on this new path. Let's just put it that way, since I got on this new path. And every one of them wanted to become clean. All of them. None of them enjoyed being in the addiction world. Something just finally triggered them to say, okay, I can do this and I will do this. And somebody told me once a long time ago in a post that I did on Facebook that it's all about choice, and I disagreed at first. I really did. I disagreed. I said, yeah, you're bullshit. It's like, it's a choice. So the people that have diabetes, is it a choice? Or people that get cancer, is it a choice? That's how I was looking at it, but I still wasn't quite understanding, and I won't understand it fully, and none of us will, because we haven't walked in those shoes. What we will understand is what it's like being on the other side. But just to see that it is possible. You can, because you don't have very many choices when you're an addict or alcoholic. You're either going to get out of it, and you're going to struggle with it all your life, like you said earlier. You're going to end up in prison, which a lot of them end up in prison, but they still get to do drugs in prison. From what I'm understanding, everything there for them anyway. Mm-hmm. Or you end up at the graveyard. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them end up at the graveyard, unfortunately. And the ones that have made it through, I just feel very blessed, because a lot of the people that we've had on our show, I tell you what, are some of the most spiritual and inspirational people I have been around my whole life. They have helped me open my eyes to see how life should be lived, because they lived on the streets. They ate out of dumpsters. They stole to help feed their habit. Yep. Some, even male and female, did sex acts just so they could get the money to feed their addiction, knowing that they did not want that addiction. I don't know how many times my wife just sat there in my arms just bawling, saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't. And I don't know how to beat it, And then, of course, me, instead of being her husband, I was her therapist. Well, all you have to do is...
Yeah.
Well, it's not that simple.
Yeah. Why aren't you doing it?
And we were doing some filming down in St. George, and they asked this question, and I mentioned that my wife asked me once. I picked her up for a weekend visit, and she's telling me some stuff that went on at the house. And of course, my therapist hat came on, and I start talking to her, and she says, can I stop you for a minute and I want you to listen to me? And I says, what? And she goes, for once, I wish you'd stop being my therapist and be my husband. And it still didn't, it hit me hard. I'm like, oh wow, I just got kicked right in the sack.
I'm only doing what I know to do. But I'm trying.
It took me a long time to realize what that meant. And I got pretty emotional in the video. I says, I'm finally her husband. I finally know when she's struggling what I need to say. And it's not, all you have to do is this. It's like, it makes me feel bad that you're going through this. Do you think you should call Tiffany? Do you think you should call Trish? Is there someone you can call, somebody who understands what you're going through? Because I'd love to help you, but I know I'm not going to be able to, so it's a tough one.
Yeah, and just to listen.
And just to listen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do finally get to say I get to be her husband now and not her therapist. Plus, she wasn't paying me anyway, so I wasn't making any money off of it. Most therapists make a shitload of money an hour, right?
Apparently, you weren't that good at being the therapist either way.
Yeah, you didn't have the thing on the wall, right? Your little license on the wall.
I didn't have my license, yeah. Well, I had some other stuff on there, but it didn't say that I graduated from therapist school. So Mark, I'm really happy for your son and his wife, and having a daughter, right? He had a daughter, and I know what it's like being a father and having a daughter. My daughters just melted my heart, and now with my 2 granddaughters, they just melt my heart. And having a grandson, of course, he melts my heart as well. But it's so good that he saw where life really needed to go. And it's really, I love hearing these stories that someone that did all these nasty things, which again, I really do, just my belief, it's not them. It's the drugs or the alcohol that's taken over their brain. It's not who they are as an individual, and also knowing for people like ourselves, we did things wrong, yes, but we were not really the cause of it, and it's we beat ourselves up a lot thinking that way, and it's very healing for us and hard, just like it's hard for them to quit the addiction. It's hard for us to not beat ourselves up thinking that we were a part of it, but so other than your son, you had some other things, because I did as well. I had an ex-wife that was addicted to prescription pills, Xanax. I know one time she took at least 8 in one day. How she was still alive, I don't have a clue. She was just a zombie. But you kind of, but yours wasn't really like in the pill part though, right? It was more alcohol, or
it was.
Okay.
But in kind of in a little different avenue that my ex-wife, it was. I think back of how it all really started, and she was a teacher for a company that did plays for kids.
Okay.
And it was like, well, is she really making a whole ton of money doing it? Because there's not a whole lot of money in that, but she was enjoying it, having a good time. And I thought, well, that takes her to, that if she's not doing that, then she's sitting home doing nothing. But during, I think, about 5-6 years into it, could have even been longer than that, she started mentioning that she was getting sick, and she was hurting. She was getting sick. She didn't feel well, and so we had to put that aside, and she started going to doctors and things of that nature, and there was some times where I questioned, what's going on? Can I talk to your doctors? And she said, no, I don't want you to. I'm not going to give you permission to talk to my doctors. I said, well, I'm your husband. And she didn't give me permission, and then I started noticing that there was more and more, half gallon of whiskey would be there one day, and then about 4 or 5 days later it was gone. And I enjoyed, and I still to this day enjoy having a drink now and again, and there's like you mentioned, you sit down with a few friends and you might tip back a few and relax and enjoy, and wake up the next morning and go, why the hell did I do that?
That was a mistake.
You think I'd learn, but anyway,
and it's worse as we get older.
It is.
And then it just got to the point where when I would come home, since I was out selling real estate, I'd be out and about, so I'd be close to the house, and I'll go grab a bite to eat, and I'd come in, and sure enough, she'd be standing there, and all it needed was 3 words to come out of her mouth, and I knew she was just gone. How did you do that?
I remember conversations like that.
And I'd just sit there and look around, and I'd go, wait a minute here. I don't remember any alcohol in the house. Where'd it go? How'd you get it?
Yeah.
And then she'd walk down the hall and pinball off the walls, and I'd just sit there and it just got to the point where she'd call me up and say, "Will you bring me a couple beers home?" And I'd say, "No.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do this." And she found a way to get it. She found her way, and then what basically started boiled down to is that when she was going to her doctors, that she had these different diseases that she said she had, but I could never talk to her doctors to. She'd get shots in her back for her spine, and then she'd have all different types of ailments, and she'd be on all these different prescriptions. And I would say, we need to go get a second opinion, because it's 4 or 5 years now, and you're still just doing the same thing. You're taking all these drugs and you're drinking, and I don't think that's a good combination.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she says, no, I like my doctors. I'm sticking right where they're at.
Yeah, she liked them because they were
Yeah.
giving her everything she needed.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
she needed. And, and I remember one night I went in there and she was just 6 sheets to the wind. And she had the hospital had a care person that would call up every now and again and check on her and stuff like that. So I actually had her name. I had her in case I needed it. So I called her up and I said, I'm at a loss here. What do I do? She's just been drinking and drinking. She's an alcoholic. What do I do? And she says, there's really not much you can do. And she says, you can call paramedics and they can come over, but if she says she's not going to the hospital, she's not going to the hospital.
Yep.
But it has to be her choice to go into rehab. I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do. And I'm sitting there, so I'm screwed, right? And that's when I really started. Well, how can we make this better? How can what do we need to do? Well, the next morning, that therapist or counselor, whoever it was, called my wife to check on her. And no more, the second she hung up the phone, she came in and just ripped me a new one for calling her. Just screaming bloody murder. Why the hell did you even call her?
That's my business.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you have a problem. We need to address it. I'm at wit's end. I don't know what to do. And she just got to the point where drinking and the drugs and saying, I love to go boating. So I had a fairly nice boat that I kept up the Flaming Gorge. And I was always trying to get her to go. And she would complain because her back hurt, that she couldn't take the waves, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, what are we going to do? What can we do to make you feel better? And she would just say, this is the way it's going to be. And so I would ask her to, time to go, and sure. And then about two days before we get ready to go, why don't you call your brother and go with him? I don't feel like going. So I'm thinking, am I going to sit in this rocking chair for the rest of my life? And here I am, not even 50 yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, we need to sit down, and you won't let me talk to your doctors. You won't give me permission. There was one doctor that I did go and see, and they said, well, we've done 79 tests for this certain thing, and they all come back negative. I don't know what to tell you.
How about stop giving her drugs? Shit.
So I'm like, and I don't even think that he was the one giving her a lot of the drugs.
Okay.
It was some of the other doctors, but finally it just got to where she didn't like me pushing the envelope to make her change.
Yeah.
I would tell her, in order for procedures, in order for you to get well, you need to quit drinking and you need to quit smoking. Because one of the things they say that I've read, and of course, I got on the internet and all of these different symptoms that she had and everything else, they just said you need to go through physical therapy, and the next thing you need to do is quit drinking, quit smoking. Smoking was one of the highest up there, that and physical therapy. Because when you smoke, it slows down your heart rate, it slows down the blood flow, so you don't get the blood to help you heal.
Yeah, to all your extremities to help it, yeah.
And I think she just got to the point where she just didn't want me. She wanted somebody that would be there to help her the path that she's going.
Yeah.
She didn't want me there, so we ended up getting a divorce. And I remember at the time we got a divorce, you kind of do the discovery and everything else, and I basically found out that I knew what she was drinking, but I didn't really know all the medications she was on. She was on 12 different medications, drinking all of this time and stuff like that, and it was just kind of like, this is a cocktail for disaster.
Yeah.
And there was really nothing I could you know,
Your
it's
hands are tied.
Yeah, because I remember that, you know, that lady telling me there's nothing you can do, and it really was frustrating.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that I can do, and that's the way she needed to have some sort of intervention, and she needed to that type of a thing. And I know, you know, there were some friends that we tried, and I even tried with her mother, and you know,
Nothing works.
Nothing worked, and as far as I know, she's still
that way.
Still that way today.
For my ex-husband, he is a big drinker as well. He saw in me the worst part of his dad, which was, you're never going to be good enough because you're doing X, Y, and Z. You need to stop doing X, Y, and Z. So I became the dad, and he resented me for that so much. So just he became the alcohol in my dad, and I became you need to stop it in his dad. So we were both each other's worst enemies in each other as a marriage, which is crazy. It's like, I just wanted the best for him, of course, just like his dad. But the way that he saw it was, I'm already never going to be good enough. And this is what I'm doing, and I'm not going to be able to stop it by you telling me this because it's making it worse, is what it all comes across as. And it's until they realize.
Well, and it's also frustrating. Now, it's not all doctors, because I know there's some really, really good ones out there, but there are the ones that they're willing, and from what I have learned, I don't know if it's still this way, but back in the early 2000s, maybe even before then, doctors got a percentage for every prescription that they wrote. I don't know if it was a 3% or 5%, whatever the percent was. So they were making money on these prescriptions. So this doctor that my ex-wife was going to, I mean, she'd come up with all kinds of things, and he would continuously fill her Xanax constantly. I remember I took her to the doctor. She wasn't feeling good once, and we took her to the doctor, and I go in with her, and we're talking, and he ends up and he goes, well, give me a minute, and he leaves. Well, my ex-wife says, I got to go to the restroom. What I wasn't realizing is she was going out there and talking to him, because I thought she was going to the restroom. And next thing I know, he'd come, you know, he was writing her a prescription. And I'm like, what did he give you? And she goes, just nothing, just something, you know, to help.
To help me.
You know, and when I started finding out what she was taking, I didn't even know what Xanax was. I had no clue. And when I started realizing what this was and what it was doing to her, I remember getting a call from her daughter once, which was my stepdaughter at the time. She goes, Al, Mom just called Dr. I won't say his name over the thing, but it's Dr. So-and-so again. And she's going to go pick up another prescription. I said, he just gave her a freaking prescription for 30 Xanax like 3 or 4 days ago. She goes, well, she called up and told him that someone stole her purse. And he says, well, come on down and I'll write you another one. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I went and told my boss, I got to go. And I jumped in the vehicle and I took off and I went to the doctor's office. And I got there before she did. And I remember the receptionist asked me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm here. I want to talk to Dr. So-and-so. And she's like, well, he's with a patient. And I was raising my voice enough, he ended up coming out. And I said, my ex-wife, or my wife, is on the way in here for you to fill another prescription, because she said she lost her purse. She didn't lose her damn purse. I said, you fill this damn prescription, I'm coming after you. I am coming after you. Guess what? He filled it. He didn't care.
Of course.
He filled it. And it just, I mean, how can you stop something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, really, you know, it's...
The pharmaceutical industry, they're too powerful.
Well, yeah. What are they, what is it, $50 billion a year company or something like that? And
basically money that's uncomprehendable to us.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you make $1 billion, I don't know why the hell you need to make even more. I mean, what if you got $1 billion, what can't you do with $1 billion that you can do with $2 billion? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a tough situation because, and again, like you said too, especially when you mix it with alcohol, it just...
They didn't mix any drugs with alcohol.
It compounds it. Yeah, with any...
Coming from the spouse's point of view, you just feel completely hopeless because, I mean, you have nobody backing you as far as the people helping them. It's the big people. They're on their side. Nobody's on our side to help us help them.
Yeah.
Well, they're making, it's an easy thing where they come in, they, go in, do a shot, or go in and just, here, you're still having that pain? Okay, here, we'll keep you on these.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else. And if they're still making money on prescription, then that should something like that should be basically outlawed, I think.
It should.
Yeah.
It should be. I mean, if you watch TV, it seems like every week there's one or two new drugs that's popping up for something.
And then it's the side effects seem far worse than anything it'll cure.
Well, half the commercial is all side effects.
Yeah, for real. See, I've been all natural for a few years, and I've been far more healthy than I've ever been. Like, I refuse to give any of that to my kids.
Well, the way I see it is, even back in let's say the 1800s, Native Americans, they lived off the land. When they got sick, it was a flower, it was a plant, It was a root, it was something.
Nowadays, dandelion tea is made fun of. I mean, so many great qualities, but it's natural. It's a cuckoo thing.
Well, it's not. I mean,
exactly.
God put everything here on this earth for us to help us, and I mean, those guys.
I wish more people.
Those guys didn't. Of course, they didn't have cell phones back in those days, but they didn't jump on their pony and head downtown and go to the local pharmacy and says, "Here, I got this prescription."
They made it themselves.
I mean, you had those ones that was kind of selling the snake oil, which who knew what was inside that? But
opium here and there,
probably opium and things like that. But I mean, the natural stuff. I know a guy right now who was just diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and he's done some research, and I think it's Tibet. He took off to Tibet. He's done some research and talked about some of their healing stuff. So he's heading down there with the monks.
Nice.
He's like, I ain't going
Let us know how that goes.
I ain't going to American medicine. He says, I'm going to go down there, and he says, either I stay here and I get sicker with all the drugs and stuff they're going to pump in me,
taken out,
or I'm going to go there. And I'm like, man, I tip my hat off to you. Go for it, buddy.
I actually know somebody like that as well in Virginia back home. He was diagnosed with cancer as well, and up and left everything. Pulled a little trailer out to the middle of nowhere, and he's been there for 35 years.
Wow.
Healthy as a horse. He said no, and he lived by it.
Well, it's something we may all have to kind of keep an eye on. My wife was reading me an article yesterday that Utah can end up being one of the most toxic cities to live in.
I can agree with that in some ways.
It's because of the low lake levels out at the Great Salt Lake.
It's got arsenic in it.
A lot of waste and things, and stuff that goes through our water system goes out there. Well, with it drying up because of the droughts and the heat, well, that stuff releases gases.
Yep.
And they're like,
I actually read about that last night as well.
Could end up being one of the most toxic places to live if the lake doesn't start.
It's because there's arsenic at the bottom of the lake, and when it's being exposed, the powder itself of the arsenic in the sand and whatever muds at the bottom, I don't know. But yeah, it's the arsenic that's going to be floating through our air. And
interesting.
It's like we're already at such a low level. I mean, it's everywhere, the low levels.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We need more water. Got to pray for more water.
Yes, we do.
We need to pray for a different change. Get out of this city living.
Yeah. If I could, man, I'd be on the History Channel as one of the mountain men. That's the life, My grandkids, man. I don't want to leave my grandkids. I definitely don't want to leave my grandkids. Hey guys, we're going to stop for a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Do you have unresolved trauma that's affecting your life?
Have you lost hope or are struggling to make connections?
Are you lost in the darkness of depression and have difficulty in finding the light?
At Matter Behavioral Health, you will learn to know thyself, know and heal others.
If you are tired of not living your best life,
If you are sick of living in your despair,
Take your power back today.
We can help. To find out which solution is best for you, give us a call at 435-462-2781 or on our website at matterbehavioralhealth.com. That's MATR.
behavioralhealth.com. And the number once again is 435-462-2781. Let us love you until you can love yourself.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffytown, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffytown. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffytown is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffytown stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffytown and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account. And we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon Mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffytown can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer pre-packaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com, that's taffytown.com, to find out more about the products and services that Taffytown offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. Again, we are here with our special guest, Mark Feigh. And again, thank you to our platinum sponsor, Matter Behavioral Health. Also want to say thank you to the plethora of sponsors that we've had that have come in and believe in what we're doing here on The Other Side of Addiction. I just feel so blessed and so grateful that so many people have helped us out. And as a matter of fact, Mark is one of them. Mark handed me an envelope one time at a networking group, and he came in to help us out with something. So Mark, people like yourself and
You're welcome.
A bunch of other people. So thank you so much for your support and your help, because as you guys can see, our studio just kind of keeps changing, and it's because of the support that we're getting from people to help make this podcast even a better podcast. So thank you so much, and thank you to all our listeners and to all those that are subscribing. And when you guys hear a show or see a show, please share it with just one friend. That's all we're asking, just one friend. Send it out there. Send them our YouTube link or a Podbean link or whatever it may be. Ask them to subscribe. It really, really helps us out. And just say, hey, check out this show. And hopefully they'll like it as well, and they'll share it with somebody. So again, guys, thank you so much. And again, thank you to Resilience Talk Network for giving us this opportunity to be in their studio. And we are definitely beautifying this studio. I don't know if some of you guys can tell, but we even got our new Resilience sign here in the back, which is really, really cool. And here shortly, you'll see the Other Side of Addiction podcast sign up there. So I'm looking forward to that. Mark, oh my gosh, I love this show. Loved what you shared, everything that we've been discussing. Just great conversation. Is there something you would like to leave with our listeners? I mean, something that you've learned through this with your son and your ex-wife.
Well, I think the one thing that I've learned is you got to be patient, and that it's not an easy thing for them to kick. Any addiction is not easy. I mean, I got multiple friends that's lost children to addiction, to overdose, and it's just one of those things that it's just like you were struggling through it. Well, you were mentioning with your wife saying, well, you just got to do this, you just got to do this, you just got to do this.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not that easy. And my son would tell me, he says, Dad, you just don't know. You just don't get it. You don't understand.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, it's got to be, just quit it. And the more and more I learned about it, more and more I, seen and talked to other counselors, and it's just not that way. It has to have a good support system, a good, somebody that's going to help them. Of course, they need to buy into it as well.
Yeah.
I've been told that, they buy into it, it'll help, or they have to reach rock bottom. And rock bottom is different for everybody. And something's got to come into their lives to make changes. There's got to be some change, They can't make it themselves, because their whole thought process is, I just need my next fix.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what it is and everything else. You have to be patient, and never give up. I think it's one of those things that, are they going to leave and get pissed off and go somewhere? Yeah, you probably won't see them for weeks, months at a time.
It could even be the last time you see them.
Yeah,
really.
And that's it. And the one I remember the one thing that a lot of discussions we had is, what do you want me to say at your funeral?
Yeah.
And that was a hard conversation to have with anybody that's in addiction. Is, you're either going to come out of it, or you're going to go into it and you're going to be 6 feet under. There's just kind of no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't continue down this path, because it isn't going to take much for you to just get over that line and overdose.
Oh yeah. And
you never know. I've read a few books that have talked about what addicts go through and things, and when you buy this stuff on the street, you don't know what it's been laced with or cut with or anything else, and you're sticking that in your system, and it hardens your veins. They have to go find new veins, and you don't know, and all of a sudden you get something that might not even be cut, and you're getting straight, strong, and you put it in thinking that it's, I got to put a bunch in me because this stuff's probably junk. Well, all of a sudden you give yourself, you're not going to be here.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
So
it's
I think education is the best thing, is just get out there and get educated. If you have anybody in your family that is an addict or addicted to something, whatever it is, just don't sweep it under the rug and think it's gonna take care of itself. It's not,
because it won't. You
have to go out there and get help, learn about it, and read. There's countless many books out there right now that you can read and get educated on, even addictions for different drugs type thing. But just know that the addiction is real, and it takes over the body.
Yeah. Well, and I like that you said you can still support.
Mm-hmm.
You have to support from a distance. Sometimes, I told my wife many times, I will be here. I will do whatever you need. I will give you whatever I can. I will be here for you 100%, as long as you're sober. But if you're using, you have to stay away, because I cannot be around it anymore. I just cannot. But I love you. I still care for you. It's not that I don't not love you. I'm here. But those are my stipulations. And then the hard part is for us to stay in our own bubble. We have to stick by our own words, because I threatened to divorce my wife many times. Of course, I filed divorce 3 times and then canceled it 3 times. But she got to the point where, like, go ahead.
What are you gonna do?
Go ahead. You haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
And it's because I was thinking, well, if I threatened her with divorce, that'll snap her out, because she didn't want to lose me. I knew she didn't want to lose me. Well, that addiction kicks over, and it's like,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so what?
It's ultimately the worst thing you can do for yourself as well, because you're totally discrediting your words.
Exactly.
I do it as a mom.
Yeah, well, we all do it, right?
Yes.
We all do it. So, and I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's really good. So, Mark, at the beginning, you were saying that you've been in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So, if any of our listeners are out there, and like I said, I've known you for a long time. I have known people through the chamber who have bought homes from you. Everyone's always spoke very, very highly of how hard you work for them. You're not really their realtor, as Shane Hughes made me say that correctly. It's realtor.
Realtor, not real-la.
Yeah,
I don't know where they come up with the
That's
A.
how I say it.
That's how I've always said it too. But
most people, and there's even people in our industry that say it.
That say it.
Well,
but a good friend of ours, he taught me how to say it. Right.
Realtor.
Realtor. Yeah.
It's even a registered trademark.
One of those silent letters.
Yeah.
A realtor.
Well, it's just like here, mountains. Mountains.
Like a veteran.
It's mountains.
Yeah.
Right.
A veteran or a veteran.
Yeah.
It could be a Utah slang. Who knows?
It probably is. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been, like I say, I've really enjoyed my career, and we try to keep the bar high, and just make sure that the people we take care of have a good experience, and that's what it's about. Because there's 3 of the most stressful things in the world: is death, divorce, and moving. And if you look at it from that aspect, when somebody's moving, they are putting they're uprooting their whole life, and moving things, and then they have to get rid of some stuff.
Yeah. Do
they want to get rid of it? And it brings back memories, and it's just very, very stressful. And I think my motto is I think a realtor should move every 5 years in order to know exactly what his client's going through.
That's interesting.
And you just got to keep that in mind of what your client is going through. Yeah, you're there to help them, and that's what you do for a living. But you've also got to understand what your client is going through, and be able to help them navigate those, those pitfalls. Because you're going to have
staying up to date.
How move your pet? What's your pet? I mean, I don't know how many times they say 40% of all homes are sold with the pet in mind.
Seriously?
So
what about the kids?
Well, that
No.
For schools and stuff.
For me, it would be
they're-
the plants. My
but-
plants in mind.
Yeah, but there is out there that they'll, I don't know how many people. Oh, they've got a dog door. Well, that one's going to have to be enlarged, or it's going to have to be moved because our dog can't.
Yeah.
There is a lot of that, and then when you actually do move, how does the kids are one thing. I mean, that's something that we always look at, but everybody kind of neglects the pets. You get pets that come over there, and all of a sudden you go over there and they'll be sitting over the corner going, "Is this my new house?" And that's a lot of people. I mean, that is family member. I mean, when you have
absolutely.
When you have people that'll spend $5-10 grand to have their pet gone through and had a surgery or something like that, that's saying a lot that they care about this pet.
Well, there's some people that don't want kids, but those pets are their kids.
I feel like pets are the new kids nowadays. Pets and plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that you just have to take care of your clients and know how they feel and take care of their feelings. It isn't, like I say, it just isn't moving from plan A to plan B, from home A to home B. It's everything in between and then beyond. And I'm always going to be there for them if they need somebody. Yeah. And if they need afterwards, I'll have people call me up and say, well, what do I do about this? How do I do this? So I can either get them somebody in touch with somebody that can, or I can answer the question for them.
That's awesome. So if somebody's interested in working with you, how do they find you?
Well, they can call me at 801-231-8179 or go to yoursaltlakehome.com.
Okay. Awesome. Mel?
Just Mel.
Just Mel. Is there anything you want to add before we sign off here?
Yeah, along with Mark, if you need help moving or anything like that, I can definitely help assist getting rid of the remaining items. I mean, even if you're moving, downsizing, or decluttering and need help getting rid of those items, Hobbs Estate Sales is here for you. So check us out at estatesalesnearme.shop. You can find that on Facebook or just on the website itself. But yeah,
cool.
We're here to help.
Yeah, and I just did a one-on-one with her and found out what she does.
Yeah.
So I've already referred her somebody. So
that's awesome. Well, that's what networking's all about, right?
Yep.
Building the relationships and then helping one another out. So,
yeah.
Mark, thank you again for taking time out of your day
welcome.
To be with us today, and greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much.
It was my pleasure.
Oh, it was our pleasure. So
Definitely.
Hey guys, again, please share our show with somebody. Just one person. Ask them to subscribe. Help us build our subscription list, because it is growing every day. It seems like we at least add one person, and I celebrate every single one that comes on. And again, thank you to our platinum sponsor, Matter Behavior. We're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.